Hi, welcome to Old English Outfitters YouTube channel. I'm Alan. So today we decided to take a look at a product that Taurus came out with last year that's been pretty popular. We've had a lot of interest in this little gun. It's a 22, and it's called the TX22. Nice little pistol. Kind of a full-size gun, not really small by any stretch. Barrel's 4.1 inches in length. It weighs about 17 ounces, so it's pretty lightweight. Typical construction these days that you'd find on something like this. The slide is made of aluminum. The frame is polymer. Very nicely designed little gun. Has a really good feeling grip to it. We got some good light stippling all the way around. A very shallow, small little finger piece right there. Picatinny rail up front, full-length frame. Something that I really like about this thing, it has a really good subjective feel, I think, but something I really like is right there, and it's on both sides of the frame. They've got a dished out kind of a scallop portion right there. It makes a wonderful spot to index your trigger finger because you obviously want to stay off the trigger till you're on target, right? Common safety. Gives you a good place to index it, and it's on either side. It's exactly the same on either side of the gun, so it doesn't matter if you're right or left-handed. Gives you that good index point. Speaking of right and left-handed, magazine release as it comes from the factory is set up for right-handers, so it's on the left side of the gun, but it is reversible, so you can move it to the other side if you want to. The slide release is only on one side, and that's kind of common for a lot of things. It does have an ambidextrous thumb safety. And this gun is empty and safe. I'm going to close the slide. The thumb safety is very nice. It's perfectly positioned to run with your shooting hand thumb, whether you're right or left-handed. And it's very positive. It clicks solidly up. You're not going to bump it and move it down. Clicks solidly right back down. So it's a good positive safety. Front and rear cocking serrations. That's nice. Front cocking serrations are kind of nice on a pistol like this. And they're nice. They're not overly aggressive. They're good to get a hold of, whether you're using the front or the back. The sights are kind of standard. If you're familiar with Taurus guns like G2Cs, G3s, all those things, pretty much the same type of sight. The rear is adjustable, windage and elevation, and then the front is screwed onto the frame. Looks like they'd probably be pretty easy to change if sight options become available for them. They are 3 white dots, 2 in the back, obviously 1 in the front. The back strap looks like it might be interchangeable. It's not. This is all one piece, so there's nothing to take off there. But like I said, it has a really good subjective feel, I thought. Magazines. Magazines are polymer, and they're pretty sturdy, pretty robustly built. Would come apart, you push the pin, slide the base plate off like most other semi-automatic magazines. They are different than a lot of semi-automatic 22 mags in the capacity. These are 16 rounders, and the gun does come with 2 of them. 16 rounds. That's a lot of 22s in a pistol magazine. They do give you, along with the gun, a nice little loader, which is awfully handy to use, really. There are tabs on the side of the magazine that you can pull the magazine spring down when you're loading it, and that's okay, but they're kind of shallow, so if you're holding it down, you're putting a lot of rounds in there, it gets a little annoying to use. This sleeve just slides over the top of the magazine. It's knurled on top. You can push the follower down. Makes loading the gun a little bit easier. On the subject of the magazines, when we were shooting this, we noticed you got to pay a little attention to these when you're loading them. Make sure that each round you load, if you kind of push down on it, make sure it kind of pops back up. If you get them in there and you get 1 or 2 that you push them and they want to stay down, they're not going to feed correctly. We had that a couple times. It has to do with loading the magazine, and not any fault of the gun or anything like that. It has to do with loading the magazine. Like a lot of 22 pistol mags, if you notice, there's a slot on each side of there, because when you load it, you can look. It's open. You can see how many rounds you got. You'll notice those rounds offset just a little bit. Has to be that way because they're rimmed. Remember, 22 long rifle, when it was originally designed, was never intended for a semi-automatic weapon. It was designed for other types of guns. So manufacturers have made it work by things like that make that offset a little so those rims don't jam up on one another. Pay attention to how you load the magazine. You won't have any real trouble. Shooting this was really a lot of fun. It's quite accurate. Sights were well regulated for the distance we shot at, which was, I don't know, 25, 30 feet at the most. We were able to hit our plates with no problem. We hit some small little things on the backstop with no real issue there. It is a single action gun. If you look at the trigger, at first glance, it looks like a lot of other striker-fired triggers out there, but it actually does not have a center safety piece. And when you cycle it, it's got a little bit of take-up. There's a little bit of take-up right there, not very much. Feels a little mushy, but right there it kind of stops, and it breaks really crisp and really clean. It's a single action trigger, so that means what? It means the striker's probably almost completely tensioned before you release it. Again, it is a striker-fired gun, not a hammer-fired gun. But obviously very comfortable to shoot, no recoil to speak of. You can shoot it rapidly, a lot of fun. You shoot it slow, it's a good little gun. Takedown's pretty easy, and it's a little different than some of the others out there. There's a takedown lever that's right there in front of the trigger. So the first thing you're going to do when you take it down is what? Right? Make sure it's empty and safe, just like you would anything else. Before you handle it off the range, before you take it apart, make sure it's empty and safe. If you got loaded magazines, either unload them or put them away so you don't forget and put them in the gun. Magazine out, check the chamber, make sure the chamber's empty, okay? In that order with any semi-automatic gun. So you make sure it's empty and safe. Once you've done that, you close the slide. And then what they want you to do is get a hold of the slide like you would with we've talked about this before with Glock pistols and similar. This is a great way to run it. You put your thumb underneath the rear tang, put your fingers over the top of the slide, back it up a little bit, right? So here what you do is the same idea, back it up just a little bit, but then you get a hold of this tab and you pull it down. And then you just hold it down and let the slide come forward. Then all you have to do is pull the trigger. If you notice, once you do that, this thing sticks down just a little bit. Then you pull the trigger, and that releases it off, and then it just comes forward, and it just pops straight off, okay? So if you look at the frame, you got some lugs right there, and you got some spaces on this. This is all it does. It doesn't like slide forward like a center fire does. It just kind of comes forward just slightly, and you pull it up, comes straight off. So you end up with the frame. Recoil spring and guide, which is captured. That's another good thing. We've talked about that before. No danger of launching it, hit yourself in the face, knock the spring across the room, all that sort of thing. Barrel comes out. So you end up with the same components that you'd end up with most other semi-automatic pistols these days. Nothing small that's going to float around and lose. Slide, barrel, recoil spring and guide frame. On the subject of the barrel, it is threaded up here. Now, it doesn't come with an adapter, but you can get an adapter. So you can take this off, put an adapter on there. So if you got a 22 suppressor, it's easy to set it up for that suppressor. Ready to put it back together? You put the barrel back in. You put the recoil spring and the guide back in. Not a whole lot different than you do with anything else, really. Here, when you go to put this back on the frame, it's just a little bit different. Because of those cutouts, you just set this on here. Around here, maybe where you can see it. Set it on here so that it sets down in. So the cutouts on the slide are kind of matching the cutout, or matching where the lugs are on the frame. And then all you do is you just push it down and pull it back. And that puts it back in service, okay? Function check it, works okay, just like it should. Function check on the some of the manual safety, make sure it doesn't work when the safety's on, right? Function check, and we're back in business. Good little gun. We've got them in stock. We got a few of them in black. We got them in tan color. Price is $269.99 plus tax, so it's not badly priced little gun. Again, 16 rounds. You know, most 22 pistols have, 10-round magazines? I think 10s are an option for this, especially if you happen to be somewhere where there's some magazine restriction, capacity restriction by law. But the ones we've got come with the 16-rounders. So there's a lot of capacity. Shoots good. Function very reliably. We put a little mix of ammo through it. We had some CCI mini mags. We had some Federal Auto Match. We had a smattering of some other stuff. There was something in there, I'm not sure what it was. It didn't sound the same as the other, but it worked. And then we had some Remington Gold bullets. All that stuff worked just fine through this. Like I said, the only thing is pay attention to loading the magazine. Make sure your magazines are loaded correctly and those bullets are standing up where they should. You should have no real trouble with it. Again, they're in stock. We've got them. Mentioned again, $269. Nice little gun. Good price. Shoots good. We thought it was a lot of fun. We liked it. So, if you're interested in those, let us know. That's all we have for now on this particular segment. So for right now, I'm Alan for Askoeoutfitters. We'll see you next time.